Hi everyone, Sean back from the Sci-Fi Model Guy, and welcome to Chapter 3 of the Klingon Battlecruiser build series from AMT. Now again, this is a 650 scale model, so if you have the Enterprise 650 or are planning to build it, this would be a really good companion piece to put next to it, maybe set up a little battle scene or something like that, and have a lot of fun with it. So I have completed the priming of the kit here, so I'm not going to record any more sections for this video, but here she is right here. I just wanted to give everyone a quick look. I didn't record anything on that, so at the end of this video you'll see where we complete the putty work, and I think I did some gray primer on there if I remember correctly. But she's looking really good, everyone. It's really turning out to be a fun build. So we're going to do the color painting on the next video in Chapter 4. We're going to go with the green and gray. So let me pull those out real quick before we continue. So there's the Tamiya XF12, which is the gray that we paint the Enterprise kit with. And then there is XF71, which is cockpit green. Now, these go really nicely together. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. They're very much the same kind of tone, and they're going to give some nice subtle changes. So you know, you guys all know me. I'm big about being subtle on this channel and with my kits. They're very similar colors, so you're not necessarily going to see a big difference, you know, in them. When you look at the kit, you're not going to necessarily go, oh, there's two colors there. It's meant to be that way. And we're going to do some accent colors on it. I got some neat plans for that. So that is it for this video here. We're going to see a lot of the putty work and things like that, getting it prepped to get to this level. And again, I'm super happy. I've been trying to find time to actually paint this and get it done. I think we'll probably have one more video, maybe two, but one more, because I just got to basically paint this and discuss how I'm doing that, which won't take long. And then we're going to put the decals and just talk a little bit about that. So probably one more video. Now, I'm going to this paper already. So today we're finally back to the viewer mail, and I was a little bit saddened to see we only have one person that had sent some stuff in. I did get some communications from some people who are still working on some kits and stuff, so I really look forward to seeing those. And folks, I do apologize that I haven't been very fast on responding to the emails. So please continue to send them in. And as always, I will respond to your email the day before, the night of, when I upload. So you'll know when your pictures are going to be uploaded and featured on the channel. You'll be alerted by email before, so you know. So today I'm going to go to the paper now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about these submissions that Jody sent in. Now, okay, a little hiccup there. So the first set of pictures here we're going to show, and I think these were shown previously, is the USS Enterprise NX-01, but the refit version. These are some really wonderful shots here, and I really like the refit version. When I built my kit, I didn't do the refit. I wasn't necessarily sure if it was going to look good, but Jody has definitely proven that to be something not to even worry about, because these pictures look really, really good. And from experience, everyone, if you haven't seen or built this kit, I think this is a 1000 scale. And the NX-01 is a relatively small ship. This model is about 6 inches at most in length and maybe about 3 inches tall. So this lighting here is extremely difficult to do. You need a lot of tiny lights. The light leaks, if there are any, become extremely apparent, and it's very hard to get rid of them all and maintain the model to be looking good. So Jody, you are to be commended, my friend, for doing such a fabulous job on these as we scroll through them. Now, the next set of pictures that Jody sent, now these are the USS Reclamation. These are two really nice pictures that we're going to cycle through here. Just one kind of from the head-on, and the other one kind of like a more exposed lit version. And just amazing. The resourcefulness shown here, just using some things around the house. I think, Jody, you said that the only thing you purchased was the glue, I think. Everything else you had paints or maybe, well, obviously you purchased the paint. But, you know, as far as the kit itself and the things you made it out of, it's just household items. And just amazing. It must have been a real fun project to do. I think I would be very afraid to take that on. Okay, and then the next set of pictures here, I really like. These are pictures of the USS Enterprise from Strange New Worlds. So Captain Pike's version of the Enterprise from that show, and it's also in Strange New Worlds. Now, regardless of what you think of the show, whether you like it or not, it cannot be denied that this is a really cool looking ship. I'm personally torn. I'm really big on, keeping things classic. I think these are neat, if it's a reimagining, if a fan wants to do it or something like that, I'm cool with it. I'm giving my personal opinion here, that I appreciate the design and the coolness of it. But to me, this is not the Enterprise to me. My Enterprise is the one that was on the original series. But again, not knocking anyone who likes the show. And just for this ship too, I might even build this ship. It is a cool design. It just brings enough of the elements of the original ship. It throws in some features from the refit Enterprise, kind of, especially with the nacelle struts. If you notice, they're kind of angled and sweeping backward. Now that's a feature that we saw in the USS Enterprise refit from the motion picture. And the original Enterprise from the original series just had straight kind of rectangles. Definitely that was a creative choice made by the producers of the show to give it a more sleek look. It's totally understandable, but it's just not canon. To me, it's not the Enterprise, no matter how cool it looks. I appreciate it for what it is. And this build, let's just get to the build here. I'm kind of waxing on a little bit, so I apologize. But these ships, or this ship here, Jody, is amazing. Really good job. I would even consider building one, even if I don't think it's quote unquote the real Enterprise. It's an awesome ship, and I might even just build one day. So yeah, all right. And I am back here. Hi, everyone. So I want to thank Jody for sending me tons of pictures. There were so many more that Jody sent that I just didn't have time to put all of them up. But hopefully you enjoyed those pictures. And I want to thank Jody for sending them to me. And for all of you else out there, you have some pictures of model stuff, send them over to me. It's the sci-fi model guy at gmail.com. I'll be happy to feature them on there. The aim is to do these once per show, or show some pictures once per episode, assuming I have some from you to share. So sorry I coughed there. That was a little bit of a hiccup. Sorry about that. A couple edits on this intro needed. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that's it for this intro. Have a great day wherever you are. Keep building and keep having fun, and I will see you down the road. Take care. Hi everyone, welcome back. Now I'm in the shop. It's another day, and we've got a little bit of progress here on the kit here. So right here in front of me are the two warp nacelles that I have assembled here. Did that last night, so the glue's nice and dry, and they'll be ready for sanding and getting those ready to go. And then over here, this is the little piece that goes on the top of the ship. I'm going to bring the box out over here. And it's right here, this little guy here. And on the instructions, it is called the upper deck and lower deck. I don't know what it is, engineering section, something like that. But these instructions, folks, are old. So this kit is basically, it's a 50-year-old or something like that. It's a very old design. And even though it's a new release, they didn't really do very many updates. They did a few, but you know, there's some things that I would have liked if they had done a little bit different. But one of them is this little assembly here. So I just want to call this out. And if you're building along with me or you plan to do this, this thing was really hard to figure out. The instructions are not clear. You can kind of see here. I'll zoom in some. It just kind of doesn't say. There's like 6 pieces. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it doesn't really show you how they go together or in what order. And then so what I did was these two pieces here are here. As I pre-assembled them. This little guy is a piece of chrome that can go on later after the build is done. So I pre-did these, and then I built this. Now, I did look at a couple other builds of this, and what I didn't see, or maybe I just missed it, is this is very hard to figure out how these pieces fit together. It's not obvious. So the best way I can think of to describe this is, if we're looking, so this is the very top of the ship, so it's going to go like that. So I'm going to turn it this way. Now I want you to take note that these pieces here, they're at an angle, so it's not straight up and down. So these pieces are at an angle. These pieces that go at an angle here are this piece here, number 15 and 14. They go at an angle, and it was not apparent, like it's not intuitive, or at least it wasn't to me. And you do them at an angle, and then they come here. But here you can still see there are some gaps. We're going to have to do some putty work, some filling in, some sanding. This piece just, maybe it's this kit, or just, I have a feeling it's just the design. There's a big gap here, and there's other gaps. Now, I'm not discouraged. I'm not angry. I'm not upset, anything like that. So I'm still very much excited to be building this kit, but I just want to call out these little things that might frustrate some of you in the build, or you might wonder, is it broken, or how's it going to be? This is still going to turn out to be real nice. It's going to take a little bit of extra work, a little bit of putty and sanding, a little more than we would maybe like, but hey, that's why we do this. So this is together. So again, these are angled here like that, and then over here are these two pieces that I put together. It's number 17 and 19, or 18 and 16. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. So these I pre-assembled. Now, part of the discussion right now is about sanding and getting rid of these seam lines and stuff. So if you do have a Dremel tool, I think you're going to be making significant use of it. If you don't have a Dremel tool, and you have about $75, maybe $100 that you can spend, and you're looking for a tool to get, if you're really getting into this hobby and you're looking to take it to the next level, and if you don't have a Dremel tool, I think this is probably one of the better investments that you can get to take your modeling up a notch. This was, I think, about $85. You can get them relatively cheaply. There's many, many models, a lot of bits, a lot of drills, things. So like these here, I got off of Amazon for like $5 or $6. Very small, thin drill bits used to drill holes for windows and things like that. There's all kinds of grinders, accessories, there's cutting discs, polishing things. This little thing came with the kit, and I haven't used half of this stuff. There's polishing compound in there for all kinds of hobbies, wire brushes. Anyway, grinding stones, cutting disc. This is very useful. I've used this tons. We've talked about that here on the channel. It gets a nice cut through plastic if you need to cut a piece. And now there's all these sanding drums here. There are these little discs, and that is what I want to talk about right now. So one of these I've done, here it is. Yeah. Now this is the smoothest grit I could find. I'm sure there are some that have a lighter grit on there, smoother. I should probably get some, but this is what I've got. And this is really good for knocking down these lips. You've got these things that are, there's lower and higher. You get real level, and you want it nice and even and flush. This is a really good tool to use. Now, you do need to be careful though, because this thing is turning. It's like a wheel, right? So this is going this way, and it will want to run, like a car. It will want to run up there and go. So you have to be very much control of it, and it could run up, and you can get your fingers. So there's some danger involved. This thing goes really fast, like. That could really hurt somebody. So, so when you're using this, I'm going to show the little technique I've come up with, and I might even be doing this wrong, but it works for me. I just use a very light touch, and I just make sure never to hang out in one spot on this too long, because number one, it will melt the plastic. Number two, you'll get a nice this concave ditch in your piece, and you don't want that. You want it to be flat. So you just want to go very light touch and just go over it slightly. Now at the end of it, it's going to be very rough, so you're going to have to go back over it with different grades of sandpaper. This one I think is probably 180, maybe 120, and then I go into about 220 here, and you go down and down the numbers, or go higher, sorry, you get higher grit, smoother, and then eventually I have like this is like a piece of foam, but it's a very light sandpaper actually. It's very good for smoothing things out. So I'm going to demonstrate kind of what I do just with this piece here. Is it this one or this one? And it is this. I kind of started both of them. Anyway, I'll do this one. Seems to be a little bit worse for wear. So I'll go ahead and fire this up, and I just do it about half speed, about like that. And I'll just show you here. And I let it go up this way, and you can go back the other way, but you'll end up fighting it. And I'm not pressing down hard, I'm just letting it kind of take it. And I want to get rid of that lip. And that's that. Now you can't use that tool on everything, but you can use it on a lot of stuff. So this here, I'm not sure if I'm going to use the disc at all. I think I'm just going to putty and sand and putty and sand, and we'll just try to get this as nice as possible. Hopefully it'll turn out nicely. But the so here it is. It's real rough. I don't know if you can even hear that. So I'm just going to take the sandpaper here and just give it a quick rub to knock down any little pieces that formed on there. And feel it, and it's nice and smooth. So now I'll go to this other one's a little smoother, and I'll just keep that process going. Now sanding and this kind of work, the more you do, the better you get at it, obviously, like as with anything else. But your piece will benefit from the time you put on doing this. So, you know, if it can get arduous and annoying even, you know, here's another technique. If you want to put it flat and you got a flat area, you can just do this a little bit. The more time you spend doing it, obviously the better your piece will be, as long as you don't, you know, knock out all of your plastic and stuff. So yeah, just keep going over it. Use your smoothing, you know, go down to the smoother grit, keep working at it, and eventually it'll be nice and smooth. And after that's done, then you go ahead and put your spot putty, which we have right here. This is that Bondo glazing and spot putty. It's a red stuff, and it's for very small gaps, and this works really well for very thin things. Now for gaps like this, we're probably going to even have to use some CA glue to fill that, and then sand that down and get it kind of it's a gap. CA glue is also a gap filling medium, so we can do that. But this is going to be kind of a bare. This little area here is okay, because this piece here is going to be covering it like that, so we don't have to worry about this. I still don't know what I'm going to do here. These are lips there. No, well, I'll just have to leave them because they're kind of part of it, but might need to do some putty in there. And that's that. So let's see what we're doing here. So okay, the nacelles, now these are very, you can hear that? That's my fingernail catching on the lip. This should be smooth. And you can see this piece is, or this kit rather, just, you know, it's just an old molds. You know, they didn't redo the mold, so you got a lot of this thing. So we're gonna have to take the Dremel and sand this down very lightly. Get rid of that that lip and go all the way around as much as we can. Now in here in these corners, we'll have to use some sanding files and things, and then along here, we'll use the Dremel. So a combination of things. Long story short, really long story short, is you want to take your time. You want to really think this out. Don't be in a rush. You know, I struggle with that too. You know, I do this a lot, but you know, I get to the point I'm like, man, I want to get on with something else. I'm tired of sanding, but try your best to get through that, because the more you sand and the smoother you get, the happier you're going to be at the end. When you get it all done and you see no seam lines at all, it is the coolest feeling. And I remember I've gained that skill just since I've started this channel. One of the first couple of models I did had really horrible seam lines, and there was a viewer kind of called it out to me, and they were right. And I'm thankful for that criticism, because I've really upped my game, and I hope that to keep getting better. So, all right. So that is some stuff on the sanding. Now let's talk a little bit, last little subject here on this section, is the way that another kind of frustrating part of this kit is this right here. So this is a hexagon. There's 6, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 piece sides, and this is a hexagon here, and they fit together. And if you notice, there's no pins, there's no rods, there's no connecting dots to align this thing. But I want to point something out here. Let me get this wire through. Now, this does not fit flush by any stretch of the imagination. So I'll try to show you here. So you can see, there it is, and you can see how much wiggle room there is in this thing. Sorry, there we go. I'm wiggling that around. So you would think it would be nice and flush and tight and only be able to fit one way. No, you can turn it, you can wiggle it. So that's unfortunate. And there's also no, no alignment pins on there. So it's going to have to we're going to have to be very careful putting this on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble this piece like this, just the way we have it, and not put the top on, because number one, I got to get the wire through here and put it down there. But the second thing is I need to be able to hold this from this angle and line it up. So I need to kind of use reference points, looking on the bottom here. Is it tilted like this? Or, we have to, when we glue it, I'm talking about, is really line it up and hold it nice. And then what I'm going to have to do is just throw on a nice old episode of Star Trek or some other, probably Star Trek. We'll do maybe Day of the Dove or something with Klingons. And I'm going to have to put a hefty amount of glue, because again, there's no rod, there's nothing else to hold this piece on. So this glue is going to have to bear all the weight coming out here to the front. Now, thankfully, the piece is not that heavy, but with physics and stuff, the longer out you go, the more weight it will pull that down. Now, I haven't heard any bad reviews saying that this thing pulls off, but we're going to have to put a generous amount of glue all over here. And then when we line it up, I'm going to have to line it up there, throw on my Star Trek, and just sit and like this and watch the show. And that is a technique I've done with the 650 Enterprise, so the same era, same scale. With the warp nacelles, you put it on and you just got to hold them in there, because they're not snug. And a good 15 minutes or so, and I might be overkill, but I don't want there to be any chance of this stuff coming off. So I'm going to end up just holding this thing for about 20 minutes in place and then letting it go. And then I will gently set it down, and when it's stuck, and maybe give it some support underneath if I have to, and let it set overnight. And the other thing is, I'm not going to paint any of this stuff. When I glue this on, this is going to be bare plastic to bare plastic, and I'll prime and do all this stuff for this part on its own. Now, these other pieces here, the warp nacelles here, I will probably prime before I assemble them, because they just kind of slide in here like this, and you don't really need to do much putty work. But I'm going to have to hold these as well, because you can see this, they're loose. So again, I'm not trying to criticize anyone this kit by any means. I'm so thankful for AMT for bringing this back, and I love it. And I kind of like that it's not improved in some ways. This is what the model builders were doing in the 70s and the 60s. So I'm more than happy to do that. So again, not trying to complain. If I am coming off like that, I apologize. But it is something to be aware of if you're interested in building this kit. Just be aware that there are these challenges that will have to be overcome. And you'll still end up with a beautiful, beautiful ship. Okay, so that's going to get built like that. I have got a lot of sanding to do. I've got a lot of putty work to do here. We're going to have to do some putty work on the nacelles, sanding there. I'm going to work on that tonight. And this gluing of the main hull to this part I'll probably do tomorrow because it's pretty late right now. Now, as for a paint scheme, let me just talk about that really quickly for a moment. And then we'll just, we'll wrap up this video because we've got quite a bit of footage stored. And I think we're probably around the 45-minute mark right now. So here we go. These are the colors I have chosen. I've got cockpit green, IJN, I think that's Japanese Navy, cockpit green, XF71. It's a nice kind of a mellow green. And we're going to go with the old XF12, which is what we use. It's the Japanese Navy gray, which is what we use to paint the Enterprise 650, or at least the one I use. Because I like it because it does seem to have a little bit of a green tone to it, and the Enterprise hull is got greenish. So anyway, I think these two colors complement each other really nicely. It's a very similar shade or tone to them. Their intensity, rather. Contrast. I don't know my color terms. I'm sorry, but they match well together. They seem like they'd be in the same palette, is what I'm trying to say. And I think the differences between this green and this gray, when we're done, is going to be nice and subtle. It's not going to be like, ooh, green and then gray. It's going to be this gradual thing, and you might have to look at it to really see the different tones. And I'm all about that. I use the word subtle quite often in these videos and how I like to do my paint schemes. I like things to be just noticeable, not in my face. Just, like when you look at something for a while, I like for someone to say, oh, hey, there's two different paint colors there. That's cool. That's the effect I like to go for. If I'm doing paneling, make it very subtle. So you almost have to stare at it for a while to see it. That's just my approach, and I like that. So anyway, that is what led me to choose XF71 and XF12, and these will be nice. And then when we put our matte color on there, the duplicolor matte wheel stuff, it will darken these a couple of tones, and it'll be really nice and give some nice contrast to the warm white lights here. So the warm white bridge lights and stuff that we've chosen will go good with these colors as well. So anyway, that's the color scheme, and there's these little chrome pieces that we talked about in the unboxing. I did decide to prime them, and we're going to go with a gloss aluminum or a flat silver, mica silver or bare metal silver. Those chrome things were just too shiny for me. It didn't look like shiny plastic, and it didn't look right. Doesn't look real to me. And so the gloss aluminum will have a little bit more of a matte finish and a little less, again, more in the subtle. I don't like things to be super in my face. So, hey everyone. Okay, it's another day and another night, and we are going to start doing the sanding. So we've got the putty on here. I think I put it down a couple of days ago. Didn't have a chance to get to it last night. So I'm going to go ahead and just sand it off and just record it and throw on some of that little guitar music so you can just kind of chill and see this. Just the only thing to point out here is that the sandpaper that I've laid out. So I'm going from left to right. We have stronger grit and then down to smoother. And then we'll end up with just smoothing it out with this little piece of foam that I just like to use. It almost doesn't feel like you get anything done with it, but it does work. So I'm going to start with this one and work my way down, and we'll just go from there. So I'm just going to record this, and I might do some time lapse with it or not. Just throw on a little filler music on there, and we'll get going and then talk a little bit more when it's done. So stand by. Okay, so that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. So we're back. It's about 2 hours later from the previous section, and it's pretty much done. So it took me a long time. I ended up having to use a much coarser bit of sandpaper than I really thought I would need to. And that's my own fault, because in every other kit, now that I'm thinking back, it's just been a while since I've done some putty work, I guess. I remember, like, yes, you need a little bit, some pretty coarse sandpaper to knock this stuff down, at least from when you lay it on as thick as I did. Probably could have, been a little bit less aggressive with laying down that putty, but I wanted to get it done. I was just smearing it on, making sure that it got in there. Sorry about that little glitch there. I thought I heard something. So, we're just wiping this down. I've got this tack rag and just picking up the residual dust there. I took the compressed air and blew it real good. And we're just getting it cleaned up. And then after this is done, it'll be ready to prime these pieces here. So that'll be nice. I'm going to prime, not everything, actually. I'm going to prime the bridge here because we've got some weird things going on here that, the priming might not get into every area. If I put, for instance, this part on. So I'm going to prime this on its own. And then I'm going to prime this one on its own and then glue that down here. So I'll mask some of this to make sure we get some good gluing, plastic to plastic surfacing, plastic to plastic connections rather. So, we don't want to glue over the paint. And then I'll go ahead and prime the warp nacelles here and put those on, because why not? I mean, I'm just going to be using some paint, but yeah, everything is pretty smooth. So I'm going to give it a good coat of the Tamiya white primer and then feel it out, and then maybe sand that first coat down of primer and then put a second coat. And then we'll take stock and see if we have to do any more putty work. Hopefully I don't, but experience shows that usually you do end up having to do a second or even third or fourth round of putty work. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I think I have a good feeling about this, actually. The Deep Space Station K7 that we did previously on the other build series, that one, if I recall, only did need one round of putty, because I really sanded the heck out of that. And I did a lot of sanding here as well. And I'm feeling this around as I'm blabbing away, and I don't feel anything. So the priming is the big, when you put the primer, that's the big test. You really start seeing the contrast. And so, all right, we'll go ahead and prime that. And I think the next section here will be just me putting on the neck here, getting this on. And I may not even record that, because I'm gonna have to, like we said before, I'm just gonna have to hold it. And so you don't want to watch somebody holding a piece of plastic to another one for 15 minutes or more. So yeah, that's the plan. It'll be this will just go. In fact, I could just do that now, actually. Just hold this and just get that set, and then prime everything here after it's all together. So, all right, sorry about the little blabbing there. It's a little bit late here, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and prime it and see how well we did, and I'll come back and show what we learned here from that experience. So we'll be right back for you. Okay, everyone, so I'm back, and I made a little bit of an executive decision, so I wanted to get this on a recording before I forgot about it. So right now, as I'm talking, it's only a couple minutes after I had just stopped the last session, and I had given it some thought. So I decided I'm just going to assemble the bridge on top of the bulb here in one shot, and then we'll prime everything later. I don't need to do the priming individual on these little pieces. I think that would make it a big mess and stuff, and I can get the primer in here. And if I miss a little bit with the primer in these kind of recessed areas, that's okay. I mean, we're not going to be really looking at detail in there. I mean, there's already a lot of shadow going on in there, so the shadows are going to block any little mishaps or anything, you know, if the primer isn't exactly perfect. But we're going to get in there with an airbrush on this stuff and make sure we get the paint in there and all those crevices. So not worried about it at all. So I think I was just making things a little bit too complicated for myself. And so we're going to move on. So I've got the old mat here, and I just have this here actually so I could tell how far to zoom in on the camera. So as long as my hands are in this area, I know I'm on camera for you. So move the neck out of the way. Now I just put a little bit of mono glue on the bulb here and just put that on, and I needled the wires through here, this bottom area. And remember from the last video, this is something I drilled out and I made that a little bit larger. So on this one, I've got all the negative wires coming out of this little small hole, and then the positive wires out of this larger one I had to drill because it had to make room for all of these guys. These are all the little resistors that come on these LEDs, or SMDs, sorry. I always mix that up. Anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to get this through on tape. So I'm going to start here. Now I've got a lot of area, a lot of room through here. Let me see if I can put the flashlight on so you can see. There's a lot of room, and we're gonna terminate everything coming out of the torpedo tube here. These two wires here connect to everything inside, and that runs through the back. So this is the main power. Just one positive and one negative wire. And then these guys I put out of the torpedo tubes strictly to allow to connect these guys. Okay, so these are going to be a little bit easier. These negative wires on these SMDs are really flimsy. I've got all 5 of them, you know, wrapped up here. So I'm going to needle these things through, or try to at any rate. There we go. That worked through pretty well. Now these are going to be a little bit more difficult, and I hope I don't snag on anything in there. So I'm going to hold the flashlight in my mouth here, so I'm not going to be able to talk. Or I can talk, and I'll just sound like I'm at a dentist. Isn't that always great? Like, hey, how was your day? We're saying you, yeah, yeah, I know. Now I seem to understand you. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay, that worked pretty well. Now I've got to just make sure I get these things kind of weaved through there and stuffed in. Now, well, I got to turn this bridge around. I've got that all wicked. That would have been something, huh? All right, so looking at this, and you've got the little shape here. It's like a little beaker shaped thing. And so there's this thing right here is where this little nub goes. So this is actually one of the nicer parts of the designs of the ship. They did put this in there so that you know where to fit that in. So I'm just going to put a lot of mono glue down just all over here. I'm going to try to keep it away from the wires and keep it away from the edge. I don't want any smearing down, you know, drooping down the bulb. I'm going to put some on the inside here. I don't like to get it on the wires if I can help it. I'm not so sure how bad this stuff, you know, maybe melts the little wires, the wire coating. I'm not really sure. And actually, I just saw that there's this nasty paint right here. I'm just scraping this off so it doesn't give me a little bump on there. I want it to connect flush. Oh, and before I forget, I still have my tack rag out. I'm going to put that in the bag there. Don't want it to dry out on me, even though it's probably time for a new one. It's still sticky. All right, so I'm going to do my best to try and pull these things through. All right, there's a little bit. There's a little bit of, you can't see this, but I'm having a little problem with one of these red wires. There we go. That looks good. No, it doesn't. There we go. I saw a little bit poking out there. Okay, so let's get this positioned correctly. All right, there we go. Now, I did say that there's that little piece there that kind of aligned it, but I'm feeling I'm still able to twist this thing around. So I'm going to eyeball this. Now, why isn't that? Okay, it's not flush. There we go. It just wasn't lining up right. Now I picked it up and looked in there and put it down, and there she is. So I'm going to make sure. Let me get this. So I'm just going to use the neck here as a guide. So let me get something straighter. So I've got the neck, and I'll just use this sanding stick as it's straight as well, and we'll line it and continue that down. And it looks like it's going right through the middle here, so I know it's aligned. Yeah, and I put quite a bit of glue on there, and it was already starting to get tacky. And there we go. And so speaking of that, there is a little trick you can kind of do, and I've read some people do this as a rule. When you put down sometimes this glue, you lay it on, and some people give it about a minute or two to start getting tacky and actually starting to dry a little bit. That's okay. I didn't want to do that in this case because I wanted to be able to reposition it. And once I get it there, you know, push down. But I don't need to put any pressure. I don't need a clamp on this. The glue is, I have plenty of glue on there, and we're directly on bare plastic. So this glue is going to immediately start to weld this plastic. And remember, this glue it's a welder. It actually melts those plastics together, so it becomes kind of a one thing. You're not just making it stick to each other. It's binding. So that's good. And we're not going to have any light leaks coming out of there. And I don't think we need to do any putty work either, because the way the ship is constructed, you can imagine that this bridge part would have been assembled, you know, laid on top of here. These are two separate parts of the ship, and you don't need, what I'm trying to get at is we don't always need to think seam lines or things like this are you know, terrible to have. It's okay for some things. You know, for instance, the nacelles of the USS Enterprise on the back, they are intended to have a gap there. And I'm sure that's just the way that the model was built back in the 60s, but there's a good explanation for it if you like to have, you know, your head canon. And there is actually some justification, and there's one of the episodes where Kirk tells Scotty, jettison the nacelles if you have to. So that line right there makes it clear that those things were meant to come off. So we don't need to have seamless, you don't need to have a seamless assembly there on everything. So anyway, really long-winded explanation there. So that's it, everyone. So I'm just going to leave this alone. I'm going to go to bed. It's pretty late. And I'm going to let this dry overnight. And then tomorrow I will come in here and prime everything. Actually, maybe before, why don't I do something here? Before we close it out, let's give it a little light test, huh? So, all right. So I got to bring this over here. Okay, all right, sorry about that little delay. Of course, you didn't see it. So what I just did was wired everything up here, connected the negatives here and the positives. And as we talked about before, that was terminated here and the wire goes through the neck. And I've got the wires here, we're gonna plug them into the old power supply and we'll give it a test in 3, 2, 1 and keep our fingers crossed. All right, we have a heartbeat. We've got the 2 lights here on the top. Let's zoom in here. There we go. And I'll turn the light around. So yeah, 2 red lights here. These are the red SMDs. They're looking really nice from my end. I don't know about how they're looking on the camera. And then we've got, oh, okay, now we do have some light leaks coming out there. Interesting. All right, so we're going to have to putty that. Right in here, you can see that little sliver. So it's not quite glued down 100%. And that is something I did kind of fear because the way these 2 pieces of the neck came together, there was one of these pieces was higher than the other. So that's what's creating this happening. So, but other than that, we've got the nice light coming through of these windows here that we did. Yeah, it looks good. It's going to look really nice from sitting back, and it's nice sparkles, and it's just enough. I really like this. So I call this a successful power test. We're just going to have to let that dry, and then we'll get the putty down in there and take care of that light leak, no problem. But other than that, there are no light spots that I can see. So we did a good job of light blocking on the inside with the black paint. I was thinking maybe we might have to do a coat of black on the outside, but it doesn't seem like we need to. I'll do a double check here and turn off, more lights in here to turn out, but maybe a little bit. Yeah, there's some here on the seam, which this does happen. Sometimes it's unavoidable to see a light spot coming through, and maybe a little bit on the front here. And some right here. That's okay. You can do this. You can spot. You can put it on the spot ways. And just real quick. So for any of the black that we're going to put on the hull here, I will do that with a brush. I'm not going to spray it because we've got these nice windows here that we put in. I don't want any black paint getting in there. But and then we'll do the same thing here. We'll brush it on in these couple of light spots down here. Maybe spray. But yeah, pretty successful light test, I'd say. I'm pretty happy, and this is gonna be good. So we'll putty that up. We'll get all that putty in, hand brush the black paint, and then we will. What I'm saying is we'll do the light blocking, and then we'll sand it. Give this a good prime and get that going. The only little thing I do have to do is I have to remember to put some solar res on these 2 lights here. We'll put a dot on each of them, and then after we paint it and everything, I'll just take those off. When you do solar res on these, it's very easy to just, with a little knife, you flick it off, and then you put a fresh one on top, a fresh dab, and that so you can actually use a solar res as a mask, and then just flick it off and put it in there. So, all right. So not too bad. I'm pretty happy, and I was happy to share this moment with you. Almost forgot to do this, and I'm glad I remembered these steps that I wanted to do because, yeah, sometimes you just got to remember to do steps in the right order. So, all right, everybody. Next step will be showing this after all the extra light blocking and primed and everything. So see you in a second.